You think you know MMA. The brutal knockouts, the insane submissions, the roaring crowds, that's what sells the sport. But beneath the bright lights and thunderous cheers lies a side that the UFC and the big promotions don't want you to see. A shadow world filled with secrets, struggles, and sacrifices that would make even the toughest fighter hesitate. If you think MMA is just about glory and cash prizes, think again. This is the story of what happens when the cameras turn off and the spotlight fades. Let's dive in. The first thing no one tells you about MMA is how much it consumes fighters' lives, mentally, physically, and emotionally. You don't become a professional fighter by accident. It takes years of relentless training, punishing diets, and an endless cycle of injuries. Every bruise, every broken bone, every missed meal is just part of the price tag. But what's rarely discussed is the toll it takes on mental health. Anxiety, depression, and even addiction are rampant, hidden beneath the surface like a ticking time bomb. The UFC talks about the warrior spirit, but when was the last time you heard about their fighters getting real help for the mental scars they carry? And it's not just the mental grind. The physical damage is brutal. Fighters routinely sacrifice their bodies for the sake of making weight classes, sometimes dehydrating themselves to dangerous levels just to step into the octagon. Repeated concussions, broken noses, shattered hands. These injuries don't just heal overnight. Many fighters walk away from the sport with lifelong damage, and the promotions rarely take responsibility. When the spotlight moves on to the next big star, the past bruises are often ignored. There's little support for fighters once their prime fades. But here's where things get even darker, the financial side. You'd imagine that UFC fighters, with their massive pay-per-view numbers and sponsorships, are rolling in cash. The reality? Many fighters barely scrape by, especially those on the undercard or just starting out. The pay structure is stacked against them, with bonuses tied to performance and wins. But what about the losses? Training camps cost thousands, and fighters often have to juggle multiple jobs just to cover basic expenses. Behind the glamour and fame, there's a harsh economic reality that many fans never see. And don't get me started on the cut deals and sponsorship restrictions that keep fighters from maximizing their earnings. Now, before we go deeper, I want to take a moment to thank you for sticking with me and watching this unfold. It means a lot that you're here, ready to look beyond the surface and understand the true story behind MMA. The fighters, the sacrifices, the hidden struggles, they deserve more than just a passing glance. Your curiosity and awareness help bring these issues to light and maybe, just maybe, push for change in a sport we all love. So back to the underbelly. There's also the dark politics behind the scenes. Matchmaking isn't always as fair as it seems. Sometimes fights are arranged based on business deals, favoritism, or what's best for ratings, not what's best for the fighters' careers or health. Promoters and managers hold enormous power, and fighters often have little say in their own futures. You hear about contract disputes and legal battles, but those are just the tip of the iceberg. Behind closed doors, pressure and manipulation can run rampant, turning the fighters into pawns rather than champions. And then there's the issue of regulation and safety. While the UFC is the biggest name in MMA, it's not the only organization. Smaller promotions, especially outside the US, often operate with looser safety standards. Fighters are sometimes pushed into bouts without proper medical checks or adequate recovery time. This creates a dangerous environment where careers and lives are on the line. The UFC might preach about safety, but as long as fighters compete across a patchwork of organizations with varying rules, the risk remains high. Another secret? The role of steroids and performance-enhancing drugs. Despite rigorous testing, the culture of pushing limits is hard to shake. Fighters often feel pressured to enhance their performance just to stay competitive. It's a murky world of clandestine deals, avoided tests, and whispered rumors. The sport's integrity is on the line, and fans deserve transparency, but instead they often get silence or denials. And let's not forget the human stories behind all the spectacle. Behind every knockout and every raise of the belt, there are fighters who have faced poverty, broken families, and shattered dreams. Some have survived abusive childhoods or battled demons like addiction and mental illness just to step into the cage. The sport can be a way out, a chance at a new life. But it's also a trap for many, a cycle of pain that's hard to break. So what's the takeaway here? MMA is more than just a sport. It's a complex, messy world filled with passion and pain. The UFC and the big promotions may focus on the glamour and excitement, but the real story lies in the lives of the fighters, their battles inside and outside the cage. It's a reminder to look deeper, to question what we see, and to appreciate the human cost behind every punch and every victory. The next time you watch an MMA fight, remember the unseen struggles and sacrifices, the silent battles fought away from the cameras. Because understanding the dark side doesn't make the sport less exciting, it makes it more real. And real is what true fans deserve. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the shadows of MMA. Stay curious, stay aware, and never stop looking beneath the surface.